Okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Today is January 16th, the year 2003. I'm Dr. Dave Thompson, a volunteer at the Palm Springs Air Museum here in California. The mission of the museum is to preserve and teach the history of World War II. I'm here at the museum today along with Jim Peltier and Tom Winter, and I'm going to interview these special gentlemen today. They were both Navy PBM pilots during World War II in the Pacific. Glad to have you here, fellas.
Thank you.
Nice to be here.
Okay, Jim, tell me when and where were you born?
I was born in Toledo, Ohio, but at the age of 2, my parents moved to Mount Clemens, Michigan, which was very near Selfridge Field, which was an Army field at that time. Now it's an Air Force station.
And what year and date was that you were born?
I was born in Toledo on the 10th of October in 1921.
Okay.
So that makes me getting up there in age, doesn't it?
Aren't we all? Aren't we all? Tom, where and when were you born?
I was born in Salt Lake City, Utah on the 2nd of July of 1919. And you'll have to compute my age yourself.
My senior citizen.
Yeah.
Citizen, that's right. What was your dad's name, Tom?
Same as mine, Thomas Granville Winter Jr. Is me, and of course he was senior. As a young kid, a young child, and all through high school, I always went by my middle name because my mother did not want Junior, and she did not want Old Tom and Young Tom around the house.
So what was your middle name then? What did she call you?
Granville.
Granville, oh, okay.
Shortened most of the time to Gran, G-R-A-N.
Remember Granville Hamner?
Yeah.
Played a shortstop for the Philadelphia Phillies?
Yeah, Granny.
They call him Granny Hamner, right?
Right.
Was Granville was that like your mom's maiden name, or was that a family name or something?
If it was on my father's side. I never did really learn the history of it.
And what was your mom's name and her maiden name?
Her full name?
Yeah.
Before marriage, she was Agnes McIntyre Colclough. C-O-L-C-L-O-U-G-H, a Scottish name.
Oh. And how did everybody end up in Utah? Where did they originate, your families?
My grandparents were converted to Mormonism by traveling missionaries, and they eventually moved from Scotland to Salt Lake City. And my father was in the steel business, and he was an expert in his particular field of production, and he was sent around a lot of different places around the country.
Let's pause this for a second.
I went to 14 different schools before I graduated from high school.
Where all were they?
Kansas City, Missouri, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Syracuse, New York, back to Kansas City, to Tulsa, Oklahoma, to a suburb of Tulsa called Sand Springs, where the plant was where my father was employed, then to Oakland, California, and Pittsburgh, California, where I completed high school.
Mm-hmm.
Jim, how about you? What was your dad's name?
My dad's name was Louis Peltier. The family came from French Canada, Quebec and Montreal. I had one grandmother named Peltier, and the other one was Vallier. And my one grandmother on my mother's side, like Tom's, was named Agnes.
Oh, really?
Agnes Navarre. And unlike Tom, I had a very unusual elementary and high school, and that I went to the same school, a Catholic school, for 12 years, from the first grade through the 12th.
What kind of nuns did you have?
IHM, the Immaculate Heart of Mary, from I think they were from a little town north of Toledo, Ohio. Monroe, Michigan was where they were. And I've always felt very fondly of them because they really enforced discipline, unlike our school systems today. If you didn't do what you were told, you got a rap on the knuckles with the ruler. As a matter of fact, my dad told me one day, he said, I had a call from Sister so-and-so, and she said that you had done something I don't recall. So I told her, what is the largest book that you're teaching with? And she said, the geography book. So he said, well, if he does it again, hit him over the head with it.
I went to grade school and high school, Catholic schools too, so I can relate to that. So.
Right.
Yeah. So what did your dad do? What kind of work did he do?
My dad had a taxi cab company and a bus line out to Selfridge Air Force Base. And of course, when I was a child, I rode on that bus back and forth and saw all the airplanes. And I went with children from the base to school and became very interested in flying at that point in time. But I didn't get the chance to go into the Army Air Force. I was attending the University of Detroit when the war broke out on December the 7th. And there was a group that gathered together to join, to go to through Navy flight training, and they called themselves the Fightin' Titans. The Titans were the university's football team at that point in time.
What were some of those early planes that you saw out of Selfridge Field?
Oh gosh, they were the Boeing single wing plane. I forget the designation.
P-07 or something like that. POE
or 12.
Yeah.
And then I remember going. They used to run the Mitchell Trophy races out at Selfridge Field. And that, of course, really heightened my desire to fly. I went with a girl whose father became legendary. Her father was Major George, and he went out to the Philippines with MacArthur. George Air Force Base was named after him.
Let's pause this for a second. Okay, Tom, tell me how you got interested in flying. Was it at a young age, like Jim?
No, not at all. I never built a model plane. I had no particular desire to fly until a friend of mine was going to go from Pittsburgh, California, to NRAB, Naval Reserve Air Base at Oakland. And he said, why don't you come down with me? And I decided that with the draft imminent, it would be a much better way to fight a war than having them hand me a trencher and a rifle.
So do you recall what you were doing on December 7th, 1941?
I was a cadet at Corpus Christi, Texas.
Okay, so you joined even before we got involved in.
Right. I went in May of 41.
Okay. Where did you graduate from high school then?
At Pittsburgh, California.
Did you play any sports in school?
Yeah, I tried everything. I was never really outstanding, but I tried in basketball, football, and track.
Okay. So did you? When did you get to? You got to Corpus Christi. Corpus Christi. When did you get there?
In August. It was the first first class in August of '41.
Jim, how about your high school time? Did you play sports?
Yes, I played football and softball in high school.
And what high school was that you graduated?
That was St. Mary's High in Mount Clemens.
Okay.
And of course, in those days, we went through the heart of the Depression, and I did a lot of different odd jobs in those days, from peddling papers to stacking goods in one of the first A&P superstores in Mount Clemens, which had opened up in a bank building in the heart of the city. Small town, 23,000 people, still about the same size.
And is that near the airfield?
Yes,
okay.
About 4 miles
and what
from
was the name of your
Selfridge.
What was the name of your dad's cab company and bus company?
It was a city cab, and my dad was a partner with an uncle, and they called it Fuller and Peltier Taxi.
What color were the taxis?
Orange and black.
Orange and black. What kind of cars were they? Do you remember?
Well, it was very interesting. My dad was a Ford man, and he always leaned towards that. So after I got out in 1946, after I married, my wife and I went back there to live for 7 years before I was recalled. And I got him to switch to Chevrolets. And 1 year after I was recalled back, he was back with Fords.
Did you ever drive any of the cabs?
Yes, I did. As a matter of fact, I caught a little hell for driving the taxi one day when we had more business than what the regular drivers could handle. And I think I was about 14 or 15 and had a regular driver's license, but not a chauffeur's license. And when I got back to the office after making a run, my uncle said, that was the wrong thing to do, and I didn't do it again until I got a chauffeur's license.
During the Depression, was your dad able to stay in business and everything?
Oh yes, he was a hard worker, and was a very heartwarming man. He helped a couple of my mother's relatives who lived in the Detroit area, Dearborn. I can recall taking them groceries, and Dad was good-hearted.
Did you have any brothers and sisters?
Yes, I had a brother and a sister, both deceased.
Okay. Did you speak French?
No.
Your parents, did they? Or?
My dad did a little, but they didn't teach French in the high schools at that time. They taught us. I had 2 years of frustration with Latin. Gala est divisa and tres partes.
I think you had to take Latin in Catholic high school.
Yes.
Too. But your ancestors, did they come from French to get to Canada, to get to French Canada?
As far as I could determine, yes.
Tom, tell me about, did you have odd jobs and stuff? What was it like for you growing up during the Depression?
My father was fairly successible in his chosen profession, if you could call it that.
What was that again?
Steel production. He was with the United States Steel Corporation, and he had a knack of knowing how to produce the steel, the finished product, at low cost and high volume. And that's why he was transferred from one mill to another. I didn't work in a steel mill until about my second year in high school, and worked there during the summer doing various things, carrying bricks and hauling slag and all the hard stuff.
Get you in shape.
Right. And over the years, I did have one or two other temporary fill-ins in a men's clothing store and in a grocery store.
And Jim, let's see, did I ask you what you were doing on December 7th of 41?
I was attending the University of Detroit, and shortly after went down to the heart of Detroit and took a physical and enrolled in the Navy Aviation Cadet program.
Let me ask both of you, what was your feeling when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor? Were you surprised, or could you see something like that coming, or what were your thoughts?
I could see it coming because the friends that I had out at Selfridge Airfield, most of them had left for the West Coast already, and this Major, then Colonel, and then General George had already left for the Philippines. And he was one of the few who was on MacArthur's staff that got left high and dry by the government because they didn't furnish them with the planes and the material that they had. And General George was later killed in Australia in a freak airplane accident. Very fine man. He was a man that you really felt sincere, that he was a kind of a guy that you could love.
How did he go to Corregidor with MacArthur?
Yes, he did.
Was he one of them that they got out on the PT boats, or did he get
Yes,
out?
right.
Oh, he did.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom, what was your thoughts?
Uh,
Because you were already in the service.
yes, the feeling in the service changed just overnight when the war started, because we were wearing civilian clothes going ashore, and from that day forward we wore uniforms. The feeling of it coming on, I think, was evidenced by the production of military equipment in this country, and the draft that was taking young people into the Army or Navy, and I was quite incensed about it. Of course, have been ever since.
So did you continue your training there at Corpus Christi then for a while?
Yes.
And were you flying planes at that time?
Yes.
And what were you flying?
We're flying. Voltees.
Mm-hmm. Vibrator.
Mhm.
Right, vibrator,
Yeah.
multi-vibrator.
And Beechcraft, a twin Beech, which gave us training in multi-engine before we went into final training. They gave us a choice, a list, what do you want for final training? I chose carrier-based fighters or dive bombers. My second choice was VOVS, flying off a battleship or a cruiser, and my third choice was patrol. And that was a rather non-glamorous, and it's still, if you ever hear Ken Martz, he always called me a pilot. Doesn't even say it. And it so happened when my group moved into final training, there were no openings in the first two, so we got the third.
And Jim, how about you? You went when you signed up for, what was it, the Navy
Yes.
air
Yes.
program?
It was about, well, let's see, from January when I signed up until I left in June to go to pre-flight school in Iowa. I worked at the Murray Corporation in Detroit, making the cells for, I think it was A-20 twin engine attack planes.
Yeah.
And then, like Tom, I went through, or unlike Tom, I went through, after Iowa pre-flight, I went to Glenview in the middle of the winter of 41. And it was cold. Flying, we didn't even have Stearmans. We flew N3Ns and NPs. And but after 8 hours, they shoved me out on a solo flight, and I was off to the races. And like Tom, I put down for single engine carrier base and this and that. And my third choice was patrol bombers, and like Tom, I ended up in PBYs, popping a few rivets, you know, on some of those hard landings.
The Iowa pre-flight, they had some really good football teams.
They
didn't
really
'Cause I know
did.
Notre Dame played. I think they beat Notre Dame a couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see any of the games at all?
Oh yes, I did. I'm trying to think. They had a lot of good football players that they made officers just like that, and they were in the phys ed programs, and they were coaching us playing football and every other thing. I'm trying to think. We had the Bernie Bierman was the coach.
All right, Minnesota.
Yeah. And Frank Caridio from Notre Dame. Yeah, but at that time, Frank was the he was the I guess he was the coach for Iowa at that time. And he was a terrific man. I saw him out on the field. Those were the days when they would drop kick for an extra point. And Caridio, he could drop kick that ball 50 feet or 50 yards with no trouble whatsoever.
So, but you ended up at Corpus Christi at some point in time too, huh?
And I graduated 2 weeks after President George Bush. That's my claim to fame.
So your class would be 40 something. What was your?
2D 43C, I believe it was, if my memory. And we had they gave us a yearbook called a Slipstream. Are you familiar with that?
We've got
Is there one there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm in it.
Oh yeah, well, we'll have to look for it and see.
Yeah.
And Tom, you were what, 41 or?
Yeah. Yes. 8C parentheses C 41.3. I've it's a long time since I've thought of those numbers.
Yeah. So
August.
Where did you go from Corpus Christi then?
When I graduated, I went back as an instructor in primary, and I was there for a short while and suddenly received orders to Naval Air Transport Service. And the Navy was getting 4-engine planes, and we went to Miami, Florida for training in 4 engines at Dinner Key by Pan American, who was the only organization that had 4-engine aircraft.
And what were those aircraft?
The ones that we trained in were the very old Sikorskys, with the engines were mounted in struts out in the wings. The fuselage was just a big bathtub. but they flew and they taught us the feel of four-engine aircraft.
Jim, were you familiar with those planes?
No, I only with the rivet popper.
Which is?
PBY.
Oh, PBY.
Yeah.
Okay. And did you train? You trained on? Where did you train on the PBY?
At Corpus.
And
then when I graduated, I went through a Hollywood, Florida navigation school, and then I was assigned to PBM squadron, VPB 16.
And the difference between a PBY and a PBM is?
Well, the PBM is a much larger hull and more stable. Flew a little faster, but climbed at a better rate, but we had problems with the Curtiss-Wright engines on those. And when we left our training and when we learned to fly the PBMs, we flew them across country in VPB 16 and lost one in Texas, made a crash landing because of faulty engines. And then we got to San Diego finally, and then up to Alameda, and flew them from Alameda to Hawaii, and where they inaugurated the engine changes from Curtiss-Wright to Pratt & Whitney. And that was a much better aircraft with Pratt & Whitney engines.
Do you have similar thoughts too, Tom?
No, I never flew a seaplane cross country. I was transferred from Norfolk, Virginia, where I went after Miami, to from VR1 in Norfolk to VR2 in Alameda. And I was there for a short time and transferred to VR2 detachment at Pearl Harbor. Got there just exactly 1 year after the war had started, but things were still pretty well shot up.
When did you first start flying PBMs?
In November and December of '41.
Back here in the States, you were
Yes.
training on. Okay. And did you find did they have those same Curtiss engines when you first started flying them?
Yeah, correct.
And did you, when they went to Pratt & Whitney, did you find, like Jim, that there was a better, worked out better?
Very definitely.
So you get to Pearl Harbor about December of '42.
Correct.
Yeah. And then how long were you there, or where did you go from there, and what were you attached to?
VR2 detachment had their main base in Pearl Harbor. We had a secondary base at Suva, Fiji, and a third base at New Caledonia. What's the name of the town, the big town on New Caledonia?
Never been there.
I can't remember it right now. But we operated on the basis of carrying as much cargo as we could. We had no guns, no bombs, no gunners. That left the plane, which was about 70,000 pound maximum takeoff, available to carry about 30,000 pounds of ammunition, spare parts, personnel.
Did you have fighter escort?
When we went into a forward area, yes. But most of the time we were on our own.
When you did, were they carrier-based planes or what?
Carrier type, not always carrier-based. It would depend on what island we were leaving, where we were leaving, and where we were going.
Jim, how about you? Where were you where did you go when you went over there? And
Well, we flew the planes to Hawaii, and we were there for about a month, and then we started going towards the forward areas and went south to Ulithi and Kwajalein, Enewetak, and we finally ended up with our supply ship, the Pocomoke, the AVN-9 in Saipan. And we were in the forward area in Saipan when the Japs still controlled it. And from then on, we were with the patrolling, mostly night patrol for anti-sub work out of Saipan, and went finally forward onto some of the other islands and onto the Philippines.
and your missions were similar to Tom?
No, we were strictly anti-sub.
Oh, okay.
14, 15-hour night flights, always night flights, taking off in some harrowing seas, you know. And we had a black shoe aboard the ship that told us that we had to get the planes off, mattering not what the conditions of the sea were.
Okay, a black shoe is a Navy ship type person, right?
Right.
As opposed to a
Aviator.
Aviator, right?
The aviators wore the brown shoes. Right, Tom?
Absolutely.
Well, how could you detect a submarine at night?
Well, we had sonar gear, and if one of the ships had detected submarines in the area, we would drop the sonobuoys and try to detect. With all the 6 months cruising that we did and night flying and everything, there was only one occasion when they picked up what they thought was an enemy submarine, and it was kind of a fun story to tell. We had one. JG aboard, who was a co-pilot, and
that's a lieutenant junior grade, right?
And he was listening to the headset with the sonobuoy, and they detected a what they thought was a sub, and made a run on it and dropped a torpedo, and his first name was Jules. I won't mention his last name. And he said he heard the drop, he heard the torpedo running, and then he heard a big boom, and they thought they made a hit. Well, when they landed and they opened the bomb bay doors, the torpedo was still in there. So after that, we called Jules. We called him. Boom Boom. We nicknamed him Boom Boom.
Tom, tell me some of the interesting experiences you had.
Well, I think the one site that I can always recall, we were leaving the Tonga Islands, Tonga Taboo, and blew an engine. We turned around, of course, and went back. They sent an engine out from Suva, Fiji to us. The ship was torpedoed just outside the harbor and limped back in. They sent another engine out, and that ship was about 3/4 of the way probably, and it was torpedoed. And the crew, most of the crew survived in the lifeboats, and they were near an island uninhabited. And they went ashore finally, they flew an engine from Pearl Harbor down to us in a PB-2Y. The hatch was big enough on there to get the engine in. Then we got the engine on and went out looking for the survivors of that ship. And we saw them on this island, or we didn't see them. We saw they had in light rocks on the beach had the letters H-E-L-P. And when we came in close, they could see it was an American plane. And they came running out of the brush and jungle, and it was just like you'd see it on television or in the movies. Their pants were ragged, and they needed shaves, and they were sunburned, and they were so thrilled to see a friendly plane. We couldn't land there because of the high waves at the beach, but we did get an Australian subchaser in and was able to pick them up. Never did see anyone from that adventure, just where they went, who they were. I always would like to have known more about them.
Jim, how about yourself? Any other?
Well, the only thing I can describe or tell you about is that we had some very unfortunate experiences. We lost flying from Alameda to Hawaii. 2 planes went down because of malfunctions of the engines. One entire crew was lost, and the other one survived. And when we got out to Saipan, we had one plane shot up by a Air Force Black Widow night fighter. One of the crewmen was killed and a couple of others. We had one plane shot down by a U.S. destroyer because the IFF wasn't responding properly, and that entire crew was lost. And we lost more pilots and crew to our own forces than we did to the enemy force. We had no enemy forces whatsoever in my 6 months experience in that with that group. Unfortunate.
Tom, tell me, you were telling me about this when you had a hole in your plane when you're trying to take off, how that happened, and if you want to relate how you guys ended up there in the first place without maybe naming too many names.
We were in Samoa, Apia, at a Marine base, and we were to leave at a certain time at high tide. The skipper, I was a co-pilot then, he was on business in into the town. He traded fountain pens, ball pens, and cigarette lighters to the natives for the products that they made. It was handmade grass skirts and tappa cloth. So as a result of his one last trip,
and what would he do? How would he get the fountain pens, and what would he do with the stuff?
Oh, he'd bring him with him, knowing that he.
From Pearl?
Yes, and knowing that he would have a market for them down there. So we started to take off, and the tide meanwhile had gone out, and we hit a coral head on the takeoff and cut a hole in the bottom. We managed to get off that one and moved closer to the beach and hit another one where it hung up. We were there for quite some time trying to rescue the plane. This a peculiar or a funny incident. Our crew was able to get all of their own crew luggage off and all of the mail bags that we had. we had a Marine Corps general aboard, and for a while we thought we were going to get a commendation for for saving the mail, because he never knew why we hit this thing. No one until now, except a few people, ever knew what happened that morning. And we wrestled with that plane, had it up on the ramp, and a big storm came at night and blew it off. And each time it would go back into the water, get more beat up. And finally, the seaplane tender, the USS Chandeleur, named for a bay in the mouth of Mississippi in Louisiana. Chandeleur came in and they barged the plane out to the ship and took it aboard. And my plane commander said, we better have somebody accompany that plane. And you're it. You just volunteered. So I had a week of sea duty, actually aboard ship, that the very first and last time. And it was kind of like a cruise to the South Sea Islands for me. I had no watches, no duties, no anything but coffee, acey-deucey, and read and sleep.
Pretty neat. Speaking of storms, did either of you get in any bad storms?
No. Typhoons.
What was that like?
Of course, when I first got out there, I was a newly designated JG and a co-pilot, and there were two of us, two co-pilots with the PPC, Plane Patrol Commander, and we spent every other night aboard that plane, and out at Saipan. We had a terrific typhoon come up one night, and we actually had to turn up the engines to keep from dragging the anchors, and that was quite an excitement. And then one other thing that happened to the plane that I was on most of the time. Someone had damaged a plane bringing it in and lost a float, so they put them out in our plane for the next night's operation. And when they came back, I'll be darned if they didn't do the same thing. They lost the float. So they brought the plane up and put the crane out to bring it up aboard ship, and the wind was blowing so bad that it just kept pounding it against the hull of the ship, and finally they decided to drop it overboard and let it sink. And aboard that, up in the cavernous area of the gull wings, I had a record player and all my 78 records, of the big band era, and plus a little a case of some of the good stuff to nip on once in a while, which frequently was done at that point in time. And I stood up there on the deck and I watched it all go down the drain.
How about you, Tom? Did you get involved in any bad storms?
The worst weather that I ever had was my very first trip across from Alameda in a PB-2Y. I went over as a deadhead crew, and I was on a bunk resting, and I suddenly felt like I was choking or strangling. And I got up and went up to the flight deck, and we were at 18,000 feet, and we still weren't out of the storm. They couldn't get below it. They couldn't get above it. It took us just about 18 hours to go across that night, and we had almost nothing but fumes when we arrived. I had to go into helo rather than Pearl Harbor. Other than that,
Tom, tell me about your short snorter.
are you a short snorter, Jim?
I was, but I don't know where that old snorter bill is anymore.
Well, it was a thing that started years ago, and I'm guessing that it perhaps was the long-range overwater pilots for Pan American began it. And as you boarded the plane, or shortly thereafter, one of the crew members would ask if you were a short snorter. If not, would you like to be? Well, no one ever said no, so you'd get out your wallet and pay $1 to each of the short snorters that were aboard, and also exchange signatures on a bill that you kept. And you would sign their old bills that they had in their pocket that have been used as short snorters. You would sign their new one, and thereafter, when they went aboard another plane, is there a short snorter aboard? Yes, and so then they would also be on the receiving end. And I had six $1 bills. 5 of them were over-stamped Hawaii, which they did to some of the, almost all, I guess, all the currency in Hawaii, in case the Japanese took Hawaii, the money would be worthless anywhere. So then I decided it would be a little dressed up if I used bills from other places. Auckland, New Zealand, I picked up a bill with New Zealand, one from Australia, one from New Caledonia, one from Samoa, and kept gluing them on, or taping them until they formed about a 7-foot long chain, which I still have.
I know you do. Do you have it here today?
No, sorry.
Oh, God. Well, we'll I've seen it, and it's really something. Yeah. That's great. So, do you remember when you first heard about dropping the atomic bomb? And where were you? Were you still out in the Pacific then, or were you back, or what? That'd been August of '45.
Me?
Well, either way,
Oh.
both of you.
I was had come back to Alameda, and I think I was in San Francisco that day, on Sunday, and heard on the radio. Of course, that was all the communication that we had in those days. And I was glad that they had, and I've always been glad that they went ahead with it, because it saved so many American lives, and it would be lost in an assault on the Japanese mainland.
Jim, how about you?
I was home on leave when that incident happened. And of course, my family and I were elated to think that this was really going to draw this whole thing to an end. And it was, I've since been back to Hiroshima and saw what the devastation was. And it was really appalling, and you had to feel sorry for all the innocent people. But in the case of all these wars, there are always a lot of innocent people who
The firebombs
get hurt.
Firebombs in Tokyo
Right.
took a lot. Yeah, I mean, this. I noticed your hat. Is that NAS North Island?
Yes.
I was stationed there from '68 to '70 as a dental officer.
Yeah. I was there. I still live there.
Oh, is that where you live in Coronado?
Just a block away from the Hotel Del.
Oh,
Right.
we were just down there. They have the Christmas tree lighting and,
Oh, yes.
and the Lambs players.
Right.
We've gone that the last 2 or 3 years. And
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Were you there this year?
Mhm.
Yeah.
We were.
We were there.
Were you?
Did you go to the play at the Lambs Theater?
No, but
this year?
Not this year. We went about 5 years ago, I think. It's where they dress up in
Right.
costumes from back
Right.
around the turn of the century. And
Very nice.
It's wonderful.
It
Yeah,
is, really is. And the hotel, did you get to see the hotel
Oh, yeah.
since its rejuvenation?
Mhm.
They just spent
Yeah.
$50 million.
Our daughter and her husband, they have two little ones, and so the last 2 or 3 years, and our granddaughter's birthday is right about that time, so
Mhm.
they always take a room for like 2 nights,
Right.
around that Christmas
Wow.
tree lighting, and so so we saw that. So did you both get out right when the war ended then?
I waited a little while, and because I had I had met on a blind date my wife. She was going to Mills College and finishing her 3rd year
Where's that?
in Oakland. And we met in February and were engaged in March and married in June and in 1946. And she called her father to tell her that she was going to become engaged to a Navy flyer. And she said, "Daddy, he looks so handsome in his white Navy uniform." And her father was quite elderly and a rancher. And he said to her, "Humph," he says, "even a fence post would look handsome in a white Navy uniform." I got a big kick out of that.
Tom, how about you? When did you get out? And by the way, had you had a girlfriend or anything during the time?
On occasion, but when I got out in early '46, and I just kind of relaxed for a few months, and I went. I had 2.5 years of junior college at San Mateo, and again, I was invited to go along with this fellow that was going up to College of Pacific in Stockton. Then it was a 2-year upper division only. And I went up and looked around, decided to enroll, and I met my wife there, and we were married in '47. And
what was her name?
Shirley.
I know. What was her maiden name?
Her maiden name was Bolin, Bollin.
Was she from around there, or was she going to school there, or what?
She was from Vallejo. And during the war, she had finished high school and was working at the Naval Shipyard in the personnel department.
And so did you finish college at College of the Pacific?
No, I just went 1 semester there to build up my grade point average and transferred then down to Berkeley, to University of California.
And what was your major?
Business.
And what did you do? What kind of work did you do after you got
I was employed by United States Steel. Coincidentally, there was no pull or drag, actually. It was a real coincidence, and I was with the Cyclone Fence Division of U.S. Steel, and I started with them in Oakland, California, and was transferred to Portland, Oregon, where I became a district manager.
And how many years did you spend with them?
28.
And when did you retire?
In 1978 or 9.
Is that when you started coming to the desert, or?
No, we had been doing that before. And it was 8 years later that we moved down here.
And how many children do you have?
Have 3 daughters. Cynthia lives in Los Angeles. Her husband is a doctor. Deborah lives in Long Beach, and her husband is a writer. And Sally lives in Austin, Texas, and her husband is a pilot for FedEx.
And how many grandkids?
The first 2 each have 2 children, so there's a total of 4, 2 boys and 2 girls.
And I know you used to play a lot of tennis at Sunrise. Are you playing any now?
No, I had some surgery about 1.5 years ago, and I've never been able to regain my balance. I'm afraid to try tennis. I was just about ready to try it, and I broke my toe. So.
But you enjoy volunteering here at the Air Museum, I know, don't you?
Yes, certainly do.
Jim, so what did you know? Did you go back in during the Korean War?
Yes, I was recalled during the Korean War.
In between time, what did you do? Did you go
I
to
had
school,
gone
or?
back with the family in the taxi cab and
Oh, yeah.
bus business, and my wife, having come from the West Coast, didn't. She finished her college education at Wayne University in Detroit and has her master's in Spanish, and taught Spanish in Chula Vista. We've been married since '46, have no children, and no grandchildren, and
what kind of Catholic family is that?
well, she had a problem.
Oh,
Yeah, she had a couple of miscarriages, and we had one little boy who lived for a few hours.
oh, I'm sorry. So how did you get called back into Korea then?
When I got to North Island, the air assignment officer was the first skipper I had in Squadron 16. He said, I'm going to put you back in P5Ms out in the Pacific. And his name was Bill Scarpino. And I said, Bill, it took me to get out of seaplanes into land planes. You wouldn't do that to an old friend, would you? And he said, no. So he put me into VU-7, a utility squadron at North Island. From there we moved to Brownfield. He got ordered out, and I stayed there until I got out in 1954.
Brownfield? Where
Brownfield, border field, Brown.
Where is
It's south and east of Chula Vista, right on the Mexican border.
Okay. That's not Montgomery Field.
No,
down that
no,
okay.
Brownfield.
Yeah.
And the duty was really good. I got to fly a lot of different type aircraft, including jets. The F-8, a very powerful prop plane, was
yeah.
fun to fly.
Bearcat.
Bearcat, yeah. It was had a big whirlwind engine on it. And
Have you seen the one we have here?
Yes, yes, yeah. Brings back fond memories.
I bet it does.
I felt like I was flying on in a saddle, you know, looking out at those little wings. And the F-9 was really fun to fly and very easy to fly. And we had JDs, Jig Dogs, the A-26, I think, we used for towing targets up at Fallon. And that was an interesting 3 years that I served with that squadron.
And what did you do when you got out? What kind
Subsequently, I got into the automobile business. I started out as a salesman in San Diego with Peck Buick and his used car manager, and I left after 2 years, and we went to Chula Vista and National City, opened up a used car lot, and subsequently got a Rambler dealership, and then 7 years later a Chrysler Plymouth, and we had Jeep, Eagle, Rambler, and I spent 25 years in the automobile business after that.
Yeah, when I was at North Island, I lived for 1 year in Imperial Beach, and then the second year I bought a house over in Otay Mesa.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
But, our daughter lives in Solana Beach now, so we go
Right.
back quite a bit.
Nice area. We love the area, except that I'm responsible for selling too many cars, and now we're getting choked freeways down there. And
Yeah. Are you still, did you retire, or are you still in
yes,
business?
I'm retired, 10 years.
Do you play any golf or tennis?
Play a lot of golf, still playing tennis. As a matter of fact, the president of our club and I won the tennis championship just Tuesday.
Oh, you did. What club do you belong to? What club? What club do you belong to?
Oh, La Quinta Country Club.
Sure.
And I played golf in the Classic on 7 different occasions, and came in. It's a fun format, but I don't qualify anymore. You have to have an 18 or under handicap, and I passed that stage in life.
And do you live here all the time, or do you have a place in San
Half
Diego?
and half in Coronado and half in. We have a beach house and a desert house.
That's really nice.
So we're
And
very happy.
Where do you play down there?
San Diego Country Club, and North Island has a very nice little golf course.
Yeah.
Are you a golfer?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're at Mission Hills here.
Oh, yeah.
And play tennis too.
Right.
Well, it sounds like you guys have had an awfully nice life. So nice to have you here, and really appreciate it. So I think we'll wrap it up now.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. It's been very enjoyable. Right, Tom?
Been a pleasure meeting
Right.
Jim, and thanks for the interview.
You're welcome.
Right
Okay.
on.
All right.